We've gone through the best practices for preparing for a green screen virtual production shoot. Let's now look at the live streaming our content out from Notch. Notch supports both Direct Show and RTMP for live streaming natively, without the need of any third-party software. This means you can stream to other applications on the same computer supporting Direct Show or external endpoints using RTMP such as YouTube, Twitch, Restream, and many, many more. Now let's take a look at these techniques in our next workshop. In this video, we will talk about streaming your Notch Builder viewport to various broadcast and conferencing applications as a camera signal. So basically, any application that supports Direct Show protocol will be accessible for use with this workflow. Amongst the most popular ones, I could name Zoom, Google Meets, OBS, Skype, Slack, so on and so forward. And then we will talk about streaming your viewport directly to a vast list of RTMP protocol-based streaming platforms like Twitch, YouTube Live, and any custom RTMP or RTMPS-based broadcast solutions. And we will finish up this tutorial with a demo of how you can do the same operations using Notch standalone application. So let's get hands-on. We're using the very same arrangement from the previous chapter. And in this case, we should start with the video signal. Now, in this example, we're using a pre-recorded video file and it's brought in from our resources as a video loader. And since we're talking about streaming, I'm sure that you will need a live camera signal. So for the live camera signal to come into Notch, we need another node. It's not video loader, it's video in source. I will grab it from the node list. So we are using separate nodes for video processing and for live video processing. I've brought in a video in source. But if I'll shift double click on the video in source, you will see that there is no information. So here in a video loader, we definitely have a video playing and a video in source is empty. And it's empty for the good reason. We haven't really defined what camera or what kind of a capture card should Notch use with this video in source node. We should head to devices, video in camera connect settings. The first tab here is video in. So I will enable that. And here I have a list of available capture cards that are connected to my machine. In this case, I have two USB capture cards based on HDMI signal. Quick note about capture cards. Any capture card that works with Direct Show or Media Foundation will be recognized by Notch and you will have no problems using it. So the only exception to this rule that I can think of now is Blackmagic capture cards. They have their own protocol and that's where things get a little bit more complex. So I would avoid that. I would stick with the Media Foundation and Direct Show based cards. Anything like Magwell, Aya Datapath will work just great. So since I have two capture cards, I am certain that I want to connect to the second one. So I will choose that. I will define that it's 25 FPS. I'm happy with the HD signal. And I will hit OK. And there we go. I'm actually streaming the very same video clip from another machine emulating the camera signal. So for us to understand better which one is which, I'm going to add a little post effect on the video loader, so the resource that we have here in the resource panel. So let's add a digital chroma glitch on this video. So this is our video. And this is our emulated camera signal. I will leave a couple of nodes here too, so it's just easier to define. There we go. So we have pre-recorded video and video in signal via capture card. So this is a golden opportunity to showcase a very handy video processing node that will allow us to switch between pre-recorded video and live video capture. This comes extremely handy because perhaps you were working with some kind of a pre-recorded data as a dummy, as a test file, and now you're on location, you need to pipe in a live video feed, but you definitely don't want to delete the test file that you made because, well, you might have to come back to it and work with it later on. So this is exactly where multiplex sources comes extremely handy. So I will unhook the pre-recorded video now, and I will pipe in this pre-recorded video to the first input, multiplex sources. I will do the same thing with the video signal that we're bringing in via capture card. So now let's switch to the preview of this specific node. So what does it do? Well, basically now we have a source index. So our first source, marked up with a 0, is the pre-recorded video. And if I set it to 1, this is our live video feed. So basically just with one switch we can choose whichever the source we want to use. I'm using this switch all the time and I suggest you do the same. So I will untick the preview in the viewport and I will pipe the multiplex sources to the video null input. There we go. And now we can actually preview the very same thing in the very scene. So this is pre-recorded because it has a post effect, and this is the emulated live feed. So with this covered, now we are definitely ready to talk about outputting our viewport to another package. Now we are definitely ready to talk about outputting our viewport to another package. In order to do that, we will go for devices, streaming. So there's a whole tab dedicated for streaming. And the first option that we have here is NotchCam. So NotchCam mode allows us to take the signal from viewport and pipe it to any other package that supports direct show protocol. So I think we should start with sending the viewport signal to Zoom. And in order to do that, I don't really need to change much. I'm gonna leave the default NotchCam setting right here. And we have no access to the bitrate in this mode. It's gonna be very handy in all the other ones, but in this case, it's going to be locked off. We can choose what a resolution do we want to use, and I'm perfectly happy with HD. That's fine, let's leave it there. We have no choice of the frame rate in this mode, but that's okay. We will talk about this when we're talking about RTMP-based streaming. But we definitely can change the keyframe intervals, and it's calculated in seconds. We can change it, but I would recommend to leave it as it is. And if you make a little research, you will see that 2 seconds is actually a industry standard. So we have no reason to change it. I'm just going to leave that as is. So I'm hitting OK. And as you see, the viewport jumped a little bit. And the reason why it jumped a little bit is because my viewport is much smaller, and you can see the exact viewport size. 1153 on 649 pixels. But as soon as we go for streaming, this viewport is then locked into the 1920 by 1080. And that's exactly why our composition changed a little bit. So I'll give more space to this composition, and then we will see it in full scale as we should. Now, before we switch through to Zoom, there's one more handy thing to address, is frame rate. So here we have a designated icon for frame rate locking. So I would always suggest to lock it either to 30 or 25 FPS respectively to your preferred frame rate. I think I'm going to lock this off to 25 by 25, so it's not oscillating in the smaller numbers or in the higher numbers. Now we are definitely ready to switch through to Zoom and fire up Notch Signal there. Here is my Zoom app, and I will start a new meeting. There we go. I will join with the computer audio, but I'm going to mute it. And now if I check the video tab of a Zoom interface, I will see that I have quite a few choices available for me of what video or what camera should I use for my signal. And amongst all the options, the very last one is NotchCam. As soon as I select NotchCam, there we are. We're sending our viewport information directly to Zoom. Now, since this is a direct link from a builder to Zoom, we can actually work on the scene and make alterations, and they will all be reflected in the Zoom call. So let's say I want to add a post effect on the overall scene. Let's add something really obnoxious, maybe digital block glitch. Connecting it to the root, and if I come back now to my Zoom call, there it is. Now, I wouldn't recommend using digital block glitch for your Zoom call video feed. It's gonna become really annoying really fast, but I'm just proving a point that this is a live direct link. So this is Zoom. Obviously, sending video feeds to similar platforms like Skype or Google Meets is more or less the same. But I think it's worthy to check this workflow in something like OBS. So I'm going to close this call, and I'm going to open OBS. So I have one practical tip about OBS. If you right-click and choose option Run as Administrator, your OBS signal will be prioritized over every single other process in your system. So basically, if you're running Notch on your system or some kind of a game on your system, OBS will take advantage of your CPU and GPU processing before anything else, and your PC will allocate the priority for resources for OBS. And I think that's exactly what you want if you're working in streaming. So how do you bring in Notch to OBS? Well, it's rather simple. Under the Sources tab, all you have to do is right click, add video capture device, and here we can call this device NotchCam. Press OK, and we will be prompted with available options for different capture devices that we have connected or different webcams that we have connected. And of course, the last option here is again the very same NotchCam. As soon as we choose that, we're pretty much good to go, and we can tailor the signal further, set up the way we like, and broadcast from Notch Builder to OBS and from OBS to any other platform that you choose to use OBS for as a broadcast tool. Okay, so that's OBS. I will close this off. And now let's talk about streaming platforms that are based on RTMP and RTMPS protocol. So what is the difference between RTMP and RTMPS? Well, RTMPS is more secure protocol. So some of the broadcast vendors choose to use one or the other depending on their internal policies. However, we can send to both, which is very good for us. So I propose that we take the scene and we send it to Twitch. But before we do that, I think we should add one more complexity to this scene: audio processing. Because likely if you're sending things directly from Notch, you will want to have audio inside of the stream. So how do you go about that? So first of all, we need to grab a capture sound node. We will connect it to the root. And of course, we have to make sure that we have some kind of microphone enabled in Notch. So I will go for devices, audio and MIDI. And here I have playback devices options and audio capture devices options. Now the microphone that I'm using for this recording and in general on this machine is this one, Mic Line 12 Audient Evo 4. So I will double click on that. It's preloaded. I will click OK. And this is locked and loaded. I do not want to hear the playback of this microphone. I just want this to be registered in Notch. So to illustrate that it's being registered, I think I'm going to add a sphere. So a shape 3D, and I will make sure that we have a little sound driven effect which makes the sphere go up and down in scale. So maybe first of all I should move it a little bit to the side, make it smaller and not that bright because this is super harsh. There we go, much better. And of course I need a sound modifier to make those animations of the sphere going up and down in scale. So let's see, there we go, scale. So I will pipe in the sound modifier to all three properties of this node. And I already see that it's working. Obviously, if we had several more sound modifiers, it would be important to route capture sound directly to the sound input. Actually, I might as well do that. That's just a good practice. But before we move on, I think I'm going to make a couple of changes here in a sound modifier. First of all, this definitely could be smoother. Maybe even smoother still. Yeah, I'm kind of happy here. Could we change the attack? That could be a bit smaller. Yep, definitely looking good. This works. So what is our next move with this scene? First of all, let's make sure that we're not streaming anymore to the NotchCam. I see that we are, so I'll end stream. There we go. And I will come back to the very same panel. So devices, streaming, and now I will choose Twitch as a mode. So Notch populates this bracket right here automatically, stream URL, but this bracket right here, stream key, you need to get from your own Twitch account. So I will grab the Twitch account that I'm using for testing and I will paste in the stream key. And in Twitch, under the settings channel, I can find my primary stream key. So I will copy that out and I will paste it here. There we go. Now I have a choice of a bitrate, although I'm not planning to change this. This setting right here directly correlates with your internet speed. So depending on how fast of a line you have, you can tailor the setting to your liking, to your needed performance. We have frame rate options unlocked, so we can choose it's either 30 or 60. I'll leave it to 30. And since we enabled audio, we can choose the sample rate and we can choose the bit rate. Now 4400 is standard, so I'll leave that, and 128 is all right too. So I'm good there. However, there is one thing that I should double check before I send this off to streaming. That is Capture Sound Node. Capture Sound Node has a property called pass-through audio. So without pass-through audio enabled, we will not be able to hear the audio that's coming through Notch in the stream. So this is definitely a biggie. This is an important setting to remember. So I'm glad we double checked. Pass-through audio, yes please, take that on. Device, streaming, and now if we switch back to the Twitch, we are more than ready to send a signal. So I'll press OK. And now I'll come back to my browser and double check if we're actually sending the signal to Twitch. There we go. This is our stream going through live from Builder to Twitch. Now, obviously, there is a little bit of a latency, and I already see that it's several seconds, and that's completely normal. That is a standard thing in streaming services. I will close off the browser, and I'm going to make sure that I'm ending the stream here. So I'll end stream. And now we are definitely familiar with the ways you can output signal from a Builder. However, for the best results or for the best performance, I would always encourage you to compile a standalone application and use that as your streaming base, because you will gain up to 25 to 30% of the performance, because you're not running things in Builder, you're running things in standalone, and standalone is literally just a copy of your design and a copy of Notch engine. So you reduce the processing load quite a lot. So it's just a very good idea to do that via standalone. Let's do that together. So I'm gonna head to the projects, compile standalone application, and I will navigate and leave this file somewhere where I can easily access it from the command prompt, because we're gonna be using command prompt to enable the NotchCam and Notch streaming to RTMP signal-based streaming platforms. So let's start by changing the name of this file. I'll call it streaming. I'll hit save. Okay, let's give it a moment to compile. Now I will navigate to the Windows file structure, to the very location where I have this file. So this file is located in my Windows, users, my user, and in my user, I made a little subfolder called standalone. And in this very subfolder, I have the exported executable with all of the required DLLs that follows the executable file when you export it from Notch Builder. Great. So before we move on to the command prompt and sending the signal out, let's just double check that it's actually working. So I'm double clicking. I'll make sure to test it with a small resolution. So 1280-720. That's good. Let's press run. And here's my design running as a standalone. Great. So I will cancel this by pressing escape. I will stop the playback and minimize Builder because we don't really need that now. And now let's send the signal from the standalone to a Zoom call. So let's start by opening a command prompt. I will start off by pressing Windows key and R. I will type in CMD. Now we'll hit Control-Shift-Enter to open it because I want this to run in an administrative mode. There we go. So now let's just navigate to this location that we designated for the standalone executable. So let's start by accessing my C drive. So CD\Enter. I'm in a C drive. So now I should go to the users. So CD users. There we go. Enter again, and the next step is accessing my personal user, so that's this very one, KAZLA. So let's type that in, CDKA. Actually, if you press tab button, command prompt finishes the directory command for you automatically. So this is literally what I did now. So I'll press enter again, and I'm just one step away from this subfolder standalone. So let's type that in, CD standalone. Now we're in the right place. Now we just need to refer to this file and make sure that we enable the NotchCam. So here I have a little text file that will help us out with the needed commands. So this area right here, we just defined together. And the rest of this command is streaming.executable. So this is exactly what we want to run. And we want this to run as live stream via direct show. So I'll just copy this command, paste it here, hit enter. And now we're prompted with the executable launch tab. So I will choose small resolution, something like 1280 on 720. I'm good with that, and I'll press run or OK. Yep, this is working. Let's navigate to Zoom. Let's launch it, new meeting. There we are, it's working. We are sending signal from standalone to Zoom. I'm gonna close this meeting off. I will exit the standalone. And now let's run the very same process, but for streaming. The beginning of the message stays the same because this is the directory. So C users, specific user, standalone subfolder. And here is what we want to call streaming executable. Is going to go live, but in this case, not via direct show, but RTMP. And this all address RTMP live Twitch TV app. So this is a static address and you can copy it from Twitch or from Notch streaming panel. However, this all part, this is something unique to your specific channel. This is a stream key and I would encourage you not to share it with other people. However, since I'm using this as a demo and the channel that I'm testing things is meant exactly for that, for testing, I have no reservations about sharing this stream key. So we will copy the whole message here starting from streaming.executable. So let's grab that, copy and paste. Let's hit run and let's make sure that we are running a small resolution. So 1280 720, that's fine. And let's hit run. Let's give it a moment to load up. There we go. Now let's come back to Twitch and double check that we see the signal. And here we are, we're sending live signal from Notch standalone application to Twitch. Great, I think this is exactly where we will finish the streaming chapter of this course. All throughout the chapter, we spoke about different ways you can send Notch signal to various streaming platforms, anything from Zoom call to Twitch. So I think it would make sense to finish up this chapter by providing you with a little template that hopefully will come handy for you in your daily business calls. So this should serve as a little enhancement for the looks and hopefully as a thing that allows you to add a little bit more information in your call. So let's talk about different controls that you can access via WebGUI and alter in Notch Builder. First of all, if you are not familiar with Notch WebGUI, I would strongly recommend you to come back to Notch Essentials course. We do have a chapter dedicated specifically for that. Everything is explained there. With that said, in order to enable this control panel, all you have to do is open your browser, type in localhost :8910, 8910 being the default port number, and you get control of all of these parameters that you can alter and they will be reflected on the screen. So first of all, you can change the name and surname. I will call myself John for now. There we go, it's changed. Then we have a little bracket for a job title, so you can type in that there. And then we have control over time zone, so you can manually change time zone depending on where you are. Now I'm presently at GMT +1, so I'll just leave it at that. The clock visible here takes the current time of your location, and the meeting time is literally just a countdown from the time you started the call. Now here in the center we have a note section. This is exactly where you would put some notes related to the meeting. It could be agenda for the meeting or it could be something that was mentioned that it's worth keeping. And a little bit down below we have a controls for QR code. So basically here you have a little QR code generator and you can put any link of your liking here so that people can grab their phone, scan the QR code and grab that link that you've pasted. So it could be anything from a business card to a specific thing that you want to share with the whole meeting. And of course, just like with the text notes, this process is dynamic, so any link you paste in will be reflected via this QR code generator. And a little bit down below, we have several sliders. So first of all, we have a background panel brightness control. Depending on your setup, you might want to have this brighter or darker. I'll just keep it at halfway through, something like 60%. And then you have pixelation post effects. So this is just a little post effect that hides the details around you and adds a little bit of dynamics. And the last bracket that we have here is an on-off switch for a face tracker. Face tracker doesn't really fulfill any special task here. It's just meant to enhance the look, make it look a little bit more interesting. So you have control over turning it on and off with the last slider here. We have a bit of sound reaction here in the bottom too, so it's literally picking up the signal from the mic and it's shooting those 3 lines. And of course we have a logo here. So the logo replacement would have to happen in Notch Builder though. So let's just go through all of these settings that was mentioned in the node graph. All of these things that we have here in the panel are actually listed and described here in the node graph as well. So a particular thing that I want to draw your attention to is a logo placeholder. So this logo placeholder is just an image plane with a PNG file brought into resources. So of course you can easily replace this logo by bringing your logo to resources and replacing it in the node graph with a new video loader. So with all that said, I think we should try it out in the actual call. I'm going to go for devices, streaming, and I'm going to make sure that I'm streaming to a Notchcam. And I will call my colleague Sarah. Hey Sarah, I think this is a time where I'm finishing this video and I'm going to have a lovely conversation with my colleague. So see you in the next video.